James, a man whose name was whispered in boardrooms and splashed across magazine covers, had it all. A penthouse that touched the clouds, a fleet of luxury cars, and a bank account that looked like a phone number. He was the king of a concrete jungle, a self-made billionaire who had clawed his way to the top from nothing. But as he sat in the plush leather seat of his chauffeured Maybach, gliding through the rain-slicked streets of New York, an emptiness gnawed at him. All the success, all the money, couldn't fill the void left by one person, Imani. Imani. Her name was a melody he hadn't heard in 10 years. She was his college sweetheart, the woman who saw the king in him when all he had was a dusty dorm room and a dream. She had eyes that sparkled with hope, and a laugh that could chase away any storm. They had planned a future together, a life built on love, not luxury. But James got ambitious. He chose the hustle over her, the boardroom over their small apartment, the late-night calls with investors over her goodnight kisses. One day, he told her he needed to focus on his career, that their paths were diverging. He broke her heart, and in doing so, he broke a part of his own. He always told himself he'd go back for her once he made it. But making it never seemed to have an end, and 10 years slipped by like grains of sand through his fingers. Tonight, a gala awaited him, another night of fake smiles and empty conversations. As the car slowed in traffic, James glanced out the window, his mind drifting back to simpler times. And then he saw her. Huddled under a tattered awning, clutching a thin blanket against the biting wind, was a woman whose face was etched with hardship, but still held the ghost of the smile he loved. It was Imani. His heart stopped. The world around him faded to a blur. It couldn't be. How? He yelled for his driver to stop. Ignoring the blaring horns and the pouring rain, James burst out of the car. He ran to her, his $1,000 suit instantly soaked. Imani? He whispered, his voice trembling. She looked up, her eyes widening in disbelief, recognition warred with shame on her face. It was him. The man she had loved, the man who had left her, now standing before her like a figure from another world. She tried to hide her face, to shrink away, but James knelt in the grimy puddle beside her. Imani, what happened? The question hung in the air, heavy with a decade of regret. Tears streamed down his face, mixing with the rain. This wasn't just a woman on the street. This was his past, his biggest mistake, his lost love. He knew in that moment, all his billions meant nothing if he couldn't fix this. He helped her up, wrapping his expensive coat around her shivering shoulders. He didn't take her to a shelter. He took her home, to his penthouse, the one that touched the clouds. The staff stared, but James didn't care. He led her into the warmth, past the modern art and priceless furniture, to a guest suite bigger than their old apartment. As Imani showered and changed into fresh, warm clothes, James paced his living room, his mind racing. How could the universe be so cruel? How could the vibrant, ambitious woman he knew end up on the streets? He had been so consumed by his own world, he never once thought to check on her. The guilt was a physical weight, crushing him. When she emerged, she looked like a ghost of her former self, but the fire was still there in her eyes. They sat in silence for a long time before she finally spoke, her voice raspy. She told him her story. After he left, she was devastated. She tried to move on, got a job, but her mother fell gravely ill. Medical bills piled up, swallowing her savings. She lost her job, then her apartment. She had no one else to turn to. Her pride, the same pride that had made him fall in love with her, kept her from reaching out to old friends, and especially to him. She had been on the streets for over a year. Each word was a dagger to James's heart. He had been living in ignorant bliss while the love of his life was fighting for survival. He looked at her, truly looked at her for the first time in a decade, and saw not a victim but a survivor, a warrior. He had built an empire of things, while she had endured the unimaginable with a strength he could only dream of possessing. "I'm so sorry, Imani," he said, the words feeling pitifully small. "I was a fool. I threw away the only real thing I ever had for this." He gestured around at the empty opulence of his home. None of it matters without you. That night marked a turning point. James didn't just give Imani money. He gave her his time, his support, his heart. He helped her get back on her feet, not as a charity case, but as a partner. He funded the business idea she'd had all those years ago, a community-focused art center for underprivileged kids. He saw the passion reigniting her eyes as she poured her soul into the project. And in helping her rebuild her life, James began to rebuild his own. He started delegating at his company, attending fewer galas, and spending more evenings with Imani, talking, laughing, and healing the wounds of the past. The penthouse, once a symbol of his lonely success, became a home filled with warmth and the sound of her laughter again. He learned that true wealth wasn't in a bank account, but in shared moments, in forgiveness, and in second chances. One evening, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights, the same city that had once separated them, Imani turned to him. "You know," she said softly, "I don't think I would change what happened. It taught me how strong I am." James pulled her close. "And it taught me what a fool I was to ever let you go." He realized he hadn't found a homeless woman on the street. He had found himself. He had found his way back home. His empire was no longer made of steel and glass, but of love, redemption, and the incredible strength of a woman named Imani. Thanks for watching our story today. If you were moved by James and Imani's journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more tales that touch the heart. We'll see you in the next video.